Next on the list, Tristan da Silva of the Orlando Magic. He fits what they love. They love jumbo wings who are very skilled and can defend. He checks a lot of boxes of what they're looking for at that position. And the way he's played in the preseason, the way he played in Eurobasket, again, we talk about taking momentum into the season. I think he's going to do just that. He complements the star players, which I think is one of the biggest traits you can have as a young player trying to figure out a role. And again, expectations. They are going to need him. They're relying on a lot of these young guys. And when you talk about a team that dealt with as many injuries as they did last year, knock on wood, we don't want it, but they have to prepare and brace themselves forward. He is a reliable option who is ready to play from day one for them. Next, at number 7, again, this is the part of the list where I get a little biased. We got Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. If you watch Teed Up, if you watch Numbers on the Board podcast, if you've just heard me speak basketball, you've probably heard me talk about Jalen Johnson, one of my favorite players in the NBA. Very disappointed, like a lot of Hawk fans and NBA fans around the league last year, where he, had an injury that took him out for a majority of the season. So now to be able to see him back fully healthy, to see that the team that the Atlanta Hawks were able to put together over the course of the offseason, I am at an all-time high of buying into Jalen Johnson. I think that this team is a match made in heaven for his play style. Him and Trae Young, I think they have a lot of complementary pieces, and I think it puts them in a position to be able to play some extremely valuable basketball for the first time of his career, at least at this level of player that he is. So I believe with this scene set and this opportunity presented to him, he's going to now be able to be in a position to play for an all-star spot. And when you look around the Eastern Conference, and I hate that it has to be this way, but we do have a few guys that will not be in the conversation due to injury, right? So we have Jason Tatum won't be a part of the All-Star weekend this year, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard. With guys like that out of the picture, it only opens up more opportunities for a guy like Jalen Johnson or the Franz Wagners around the league. So I'm looking at Jalen Johnson. I'm looking at the year that he gave us before he got hurt, 2010 and 5. It's not a lot of players in NBA history who were able to put up those type of numbers. And when you think about his age, and again, the step that this team took on paper from talent wise, they have a chance to really take the East by storm. And if they're going to get to that level, it's going to be Jalen Johnson taking another step in his game. And I think the sky is truly the limit for a talent like him. Number 8, another young guy with some opportunity opening up for him, and that's Terrence Shannon Jr. out of Minnesota. Just like I talked about with Jalen Johnson, the guys they acquired, one of those guys being Nickeil Alexander-Walker over the offseason, going to the Atlanta Hawks, which I think creates a great opportunity for Shannon Jr. with the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a playoff team. He was able to get playoff opportunity and experience last year towards the end of the year. And a couple of those games that he got to play, he played his ass off. He played really, really, really well. And I think some of that confidence and some of those results, like I talked about with AJ Green, like I talk about with Jalen Tyson and what I hope that he can have, I truly believe being able to perform on that stage in that environment really goes far for a lot of these young players in that following year when they have more of a role or more of an opportunity. Because if you can do it in the playoffs where all the marbles are on the table, then the regular season is going to be seamless. And so I think of that, and I think of the opportunity that's opened up for him and just his mentality that we've seen throughout his college career. He's a Chicago guy, so I'm familiar with him from a high school perspective. Terrence Shannon Jr. has that mindset and that mentality for a guy that you're looking to take full advantage of his opportunity. I love the fact that he has the aggression to be able to put the ball on the floor and attack. I also love the ability for him to be able to catch and shoot. And he showed a lot of that last year. He showed that more in the preseason again. And I think he'll be able to build on that. The only thing he's going to have to worry about is defensively. This is a team that buys in on the defensive side of the basketball with Ant, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy. He's going to have to buy in. And as long as he can hold his own, he doesn't have to be a standout, but if he can hold his own and continue to find ways to effectively play off of Anthony Edwards and the rest of this starting group out there in Minnesota, Terrence Shannon not only will have an opportunity, but I think he'll be one of the better draft picks over the last couple of years, seeing what type of role he was able to carve out with the Timberwolves. Number 9, an interesting guy, a guy that I think is an example of what change of scenery could really do in both a positive and a negative way. And that's John Collins. And what I mean by that is I think the last time we saw John Collins play playoff basketball, his value was going up. When they went on that Eastern Conference Finals run and he was able to guard Julius Randle the way he did in that Knicks series, the conversation around John Collins was out of this world. And then the Hawks kind of had some injuries. They weren't able to meet that expectation again. And the conversation got shaky. And then before we knew it, we saw John Collins get traded to the Utah Jazz. In the change of scenery of John Collins going to the Jazz, I kind of feel like it put him on a back burner. We haven't heard much of John Collins. The Utah Jazz haven't been that relevant of a team as far as competing and winning. They're not playing TV games. So even if he has one of those highlight dunks that John Collins gives you, it only goes so far. And now, changing his scenery again, putting him in the Western Conference on a team that I think is a legitimate playoff team, a legitimate veteran team who can really go on a run this year, in my opinion, and pairing him with a guard reminiscent of Trae Young, like James Harden, a really, really good floor general who's going to operate out of the pick and roll, look for him on lob attempts. I think this can rejuvenate John Collins and put him back in a more relevant role. He has always been a guy at his size who has athletic ability out of this world. He's always been an above average shooter for his position. And you tie that into the playoff environment, it brings up his defensive tenacity. And so, again, when we're talking about buying stock in guys, he's a guy that I think has been an afterthought. I think his stock is probably, I don't want to say an all-time low, because there was a year where he was dealing with an injury and a three-point shot did not really fall that year, and I think that knocked him a bit. But I think it's probably at as low as it's going to get, or as low as it's been. And I think right now, again, changing the environment from a team that's playing for, a lottery pick and now going to an LA situation on a team that's playing to potentially get to the NBA Finals. This is a great team to be a part of. They have a lot of depth. There's going to be opportunity because you're playing with an older roster. So the Kawhis of the world probably want to sit out game here and there, load manage a bit. And I think that'll open up some rotational minutes and some nights where John Collins can play, 35 to 38 minutes. But if you get a guy like John Collins to come off your bench, you put him with a James Harden. We've seen the ability that James Harden has had as far as, I don't even want to say rejuvenating, but driving up the value for pick and roll players. And John Collins is a guy that's going to be able to pick and pop. He's going to be able to pick and roll. He could put guys on posters. You put him in lineups where Brook Lopez is out there as a floor spacer. It opens up the entire paint and driving lanes for John Collins. I love this. And if you're not buying stock, or if you're looking for players to buy stock in, I would say John Collins should be one of the highest guys on your list, because the bang for your buck is there. John Collins, Clippers, buying stock in him, lock that one in. And then last but not least, a name that I think will surprise people in a certain way, but when I give you the context, it would all make sense. At number 10, I have Anthony Davis. And the reason I'm buying stock into Anthony Davis is because I feel like this is the first time in a long, long, long time where Anthony Davis is entering a year with a team that feels like it's been constructed for him. Now, obviously, I would be lying if I said that they are purposely put together this team for Anthony Davis as their centerpiece, right? Because, they have Kyrie, they've drafted Cooper Flag now, and a lot of it is going to go to Cooper Flag. But Anthony Davis has told us for the last decade how much he loves playing power forward, how he has really no desire to be a center, and how, he much rather play with another big in the front court. And I look at this front line for the Dallas Mavericks. I look at the bodies on the roster. The starting lineup is some way is going to be Cooper Flag, Anthony Davis, and Lively. That is the front court that I believe Anthony Davis has, wanted to be a part of for most of his career. It's also the type of front court and the size that we saw him have with the Lakers when they won a championship in the bubble, which was one of my favorite versions of Anthony Davis. And so when I think about that, I think about the bench with Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington and Najee Marshall. There is size, depth, and bodies in this front court that I truly believe would allow Anthony Davis to be who he wants to be. And I think it allow him to not have to bang so much, which will in turn keep him on the floor, keep him fresher. And then with Kyrie Irving being out, I think you put Anthony Davis in a situation where Jason Kidd is going to have to heavily, rely on him offensively. And it's not just a scoring mindset. I think that's running the offense through him. I think that's allowing him to be the go-to guy, putting him in a lot of different actions, using him in a lot of variety of ways. And when you put all that together, for me, as long as he can be healthy and stay on the floor, it's shaping Anthony Davis up to have one of those years where he's an all NBA player, where he is a top 10, top 8, top 7 player. They have expectations in Dallas. And again, we know they have Cooper Flag. We know a lot of attention is going to go to him and they're going to focus on his development. But a part of that is them also having this really good put together team. And if Kyrie Irving's return is going to be on the table, they're going to have something to play for to keep that door open for the playoffs. And I think it all sets a stage for Anthony Davis to be comfortable, to be effective, and have an incredible year that I don't think a lot of people are anticipating for Anthony Davis.